My husband skipped our anniversary for his boss. He texted one word: emergency. I sat alone with 2 glasses of wine. For 9 years, I balanced his numbers, his business, his taxes, his careful little lies. You wouldn't understand the real money, Daniel told me. I didn't argue. I never do. But I noticed a date that couldn't be real. 2 accounts I'd never approved. One name I didn't recognize. And an envelope I'd never seen before. Weathered, sealed, hidden under his tax folders. I didn't know yet what it held. I didn't know one letter could end it all. His boss, Renee, smiled at me like I was furniture. She'd been to our home. She'd eaten at our table. They thought my silence meant surrender. It didn't. I didn't cry. I opened a new folder. By the end, you'll see how one sealed envelope took back everything. Stay with me, because the night they celebrated, I started counting. Welcome to Betrayal Diaries, where quiet people finally tell the truth, and justice speaks softly but never misses. If betrayal, family secrets, and earned justice move you, you're in the right place. Now, let me take you back to where this one began. The envelope is still in my drawer tonight. I keep it where I can see it. My name is Claire. I'm 34. I prepare taxes for a living. Numbers don't lie to me. People do. I learned the difference slowly. For 9 years, I handled every dollar Daniel earned. His returns, his deductions, his quarterly filings. He called me organized. He meant invisible. There's a difference, and he knew it. That anniversary night, I didn't sleep. I turned my wedding ring around my finger. I do that when I'm thinking. Around and around, the band catching the light. Daniel came home at 2:14 a.m. He smelled like someone else's perfume. Renee needed me. He said, "A client emergency." You wouldn't understand the pressure. I said nothing. I'd already seen the envelope by then. Let me back up. Earlier that evening, I'd gone looking for our tax folder. We were 3 weeks from filing. I wanted his consulting receipts. Simple. His office was a mess. It always was. He left the chaos to me. I opened the bottom drawer, and there it sat, under everything. A weathered envelope, cream-colored, sealed, soft at the corners from handling. It had no name, no address, just a date written in the corner. March 9th. The handwriting wasn't mine. It wasn't Daniel's either. I didn't open it. Not that night. I just held it for a moment. Something about it felt wrong, like a number that won't reconcile. I put it back exactly where I found it. I'm careful that way, but I remembered the date. March 9th. I write things down. The next morning, Daniel was cheerful. Too cheerful. The way liars get. "Big news coming," he said, kissing my forehead. "Renee's making me partner." "That's wonderful," I said. I turned my ring once. "When did this happen?" "Few months back. Didn't want to jinx it." He smiled. "You'll see. A few months back." I filed that away too. Quietly. Here's what you should know about my husband. Daniel was charming in public. At dinners, he was generous. At home, he counted my words. He'd built a consulting business from nothing. That's what he told everyone. I knew different. I'd seen the early years. I'd seen the loans. I'd signed some of those loans myself. My name was on the paper too. I didn't think about that then. I would later. Believe me, his boss, Renee, ran the firm he consulted for. Polished, expensive shoes. She came to our house twice that spring. She brought wine and warmth. "Claire, you're a saint," she once told me, handling all his boring numbers. I smiled and refilled her glass. Saints get overlooked. I was counting on it. That week, I started noticing things. Small things. The way debts do. Our joint account was lighter than it should have been. By a lot. I checked the statements. A transfer had gone out, $8,300, to an account I didn't recognize, dated March 9th, the same date, the same one written on that weathered envelope. I sat very still. I turned my ring around my finger slowly. In my work, when two numbers match by accident, it's never an accident. That date was a thread, and I just found one end of it. I didn't confront him. That's not how I work. I gather first. That night, Daniel slept easily beside me. He had nothing to fear, he thought. I lay awake. I thought about the envelope, about March 9th, about a transfer I never approved to a name I'd never seen, and about the word he'd texted me on our anniversary. Emergency. I was beginning to understand what the emergency really was. It wasn't a client. It was something he needed to hide. I got up at 4 a.m. I opened my laptop. Quietly, I started a new folder. I named it nothing, just a date. March 9th. I began pulling records, bank logs, email timestamps, filing histories. The pieces didn't fit the story Daniel had told for 9 years. By sunrise, I had a list of 7 questions. And one certainty: my husband had been lying to me with numbers. My language. That was his mistake. Not the affair. Not the empty anniversary table. His mistake was lying to the one person who reads the ledger. I closed the laptop. I picked up my wedding ring from the nightstand. I turned it once in the morning light. Then I put it back on. I had work to do, and I had time. He didn't know that yet. But there was one thing I still didn't understand about that envelope. Why was the handwriting on it a woman's and not Renee's? The handwriting question haunted me for 3 days. Then I stopped guessing and started reading. That's the thing about my work. Feelings lie. Documents don't. I pulled Daniel's consulting returns from the last 4 years. All of them. I prepared them myself. But I prepared what he gave me. There's a difference between what's true and what's submitted. I know it well. The lowest point came on a Tuesday. The kitchen still smelled of cold coffee. I was matching his reported income against our actual deposits. Line by line. The numbers didn't agree. Not by a little. By $41,000. $41,000 had moved through accounts I'd never been shown. I sat at my kitchen table and felt the floor tilt. 9 years. I'd vouched for those returns. My name was on them too, as the preparer, as the spouse, as the fool who trusted the man. I turned my wedding ring around my finger, around and around. That night Daniel found me at the table, papers spread out. "What's all this?" he asked. His voice was light. His eyes weren't. "Tax prep," I said. "Just being careful. 3 weeks to file." "You work too hard, Claire." He kissed my head. "Leave the big stuff to me." The big stuff. I almost laughed. I just nodded instead. He went to bed. I stayed up. The rain started against the window. Then I found it. The first thing that couldn't be real. A consulting payment. Logged as received on April 12th. $4,600. But April 12th was a Sunday, and the payer was a corporation. Corporations don't wire funds on a Sunday. The banking system doesn't allow it. I'd seen this exact error in fraudulent books before. Many times. A backdated entry. Someone recorded a transaction on a day that couldn't happen. The money came later. The date was a costume. A lie wearing a number. I checked the bank's settlement record against the entry. They didn't match. The real deposit cleared on April 14th. 2 days off. Small. Deliberate. Why backdate 2 days? To pull income into a different quarter. To make a filing look clean. To hide where the money truly came from. This wasn't sloppiness. Sloppiness is random. This was careful. This was a system. My husband, or someone helping him, knew exactly how to cook a book. And Daniel didn't know how. I did our numbers. Always. Which meant someone else had taught him. Or done it for him. I thought of Renee, the polished firm, the expensive shoes. I thought of the envelope, the woman's handwriting that wasn't hers. 2 women, one of them helping him hide money from me. I turned my ring. The band was warm now from my hands. The next morning I tested him. Gently. I'm patient that way. Daniel, that April consulting payment, the Renee account. When did it land? He didn't blink. Around tax time. Why does it matter? It doesn't, I said, just reconciling. You know me. I do. He smiled. Always counting. It's why I keep you around. It's why I keep you around. He meant it as affection. I heard it as a confession. He kept me to clean his mess. He didn't know I'd already found the dirt under the rug. That afternoon, I drove to the bank, not to ask questions, to request records. I'm allowed to. My name is on the joint account. Everything legal. I requested the full transaction history. 18 months. Printed and stamped. I asked for the canceled check. Images too. All of them. Front and back. The teller was kind. Big project, she asked, sliding the pages over. Something like that. I said, just putting the whole story together. I took the pages to my car. I didn't drive away yet. I sat in the parking lot and read. The rain had stopped. There it was on page 6. The March 9th transfer. $8,300. But the recipient account had a name attached now, printed plainly. It wasn't Renee. It wasn't a client. It was a woman named Diane Foster. I didn't know any Diane Foster. I'd never heard the name in 9 years. But the handwriting on that envelope, the cream-colored one, March 9th. Suddenly, I wondered if I was finally looking at her writing. I started the car. I needed to see that envelope again, because the backdated Sunday wasn't the only thing that was wrong. There was a second transfer to Diane Foster, dated the day before our wedding. I drove home with one name burning in my head, Diane Foster, a transfer to her the day before my wedding, 9 years ago. Before there was an U.S., there was already a her. I went straight to Daniel's office. He was out with Renee. Of course. I opened the bottom drawer. The weathered envelope was still there, cream-colored, soft corners. March 9th in a woman's careful hand. I held it up to the desk lamp. The paper was thin with age. Through the worn flap, I could just make out one line of writing inside. I couldn't read the words, but I knew it was a letter. My fingers itched to tear it open. I didn't. In my work, an unopened original is worth more than a copy. A sealed document tells its own story. Break the seal, and you weaken it. So I set it down, still sealed. It had waited 9 years. It could wait longer. The envelope smelled faintly of old paper and someone else's drawer. I'd open it when I understood enough to know what I was holding. Until then, it stayed shut, my quietest piece of evidence. I went back to the documents. Documents are where the truth hides. I pulled Diane Foster's name through every record I could legally access. Public filings, business registrations, the county recorder's database, all open to anyone. It took 2 hours. Then her name appeared where it shouldn't have. Diane Foster was listed as co-owner of Daniel's consulting business. Since the beginning, co-owner, 38%. Filed 11 days before our wedding. I read it 3 times. The screen didn't change. The truth held. For 9 years, my husband had a business partner I'd never met, a woman he'd paid, quietly, the day before he married me. I turned my wedding ring around my finger, slow, steady, thinking. The business I'd done taxes for, the business I'd signed loans for, I owned none of it. She did, and I never knew her name. That night Daniel came home, humming. He'd had wine with Renee. Good day, I asked. I straightened the papers in front of me. Great day, he said. Renee says the partnership's almost finalized. That's exciting. I turned my ring. Tell me about your business partners. He paused, just half a second. But I count seconds for a living. You're my only partner, Claire, he said. You handle the money, remember? I smiled. Of course. Silly me. He kissed my head and went to shower. I sat very still. He'd lied to my face. Smooth. Practiced. The way he always did. But now I had it in writing. State filed. Stamped. Dated. I took my proof to a forensic accountant the next morning. Her name was Marguerite. I didn't ask her to find anything. I'd already found it. I asked her to confirm what I already knew. Professionals confirm. I deduce. She reviewed the backdated Sunday entry, the transfers, the hidden co-ownership. This is structured, she said quietly. Someone organized this very carefully. I know, I said. I just needed someone else to say it out loud. She looked at me over her glasses. Whoever did this knew the rules. Yes, I said. They did. That's how I'll catch them. I drove home with copies of everything. Stamped, sealed, legal. I built a new file. I labeled it with that first date. March 9th. Inside it, the story was coming together. Page by page. Truth by truth. The sealed envelope sat on top of the file. Still shut. Still waiting. That evening, I made tea. The kitchen was warm. The file was cold. I read the co-ownership filing one more time, slowly, and then I saw it. The detail I'd missed in the rush. The filing listing Diane Foster as co-owner had a notary stamp. The notary's name was printed at the bottom. Renee Caldwell. Renee, Daniel's boss. The polished one. The one who called me a saint. She'd notarized the document that cut me out 11 days before my wedding. She'd known. For 9 years, she'd sat at my table and known. The wine, the warmth, the saint comment, all of it theater. 3 of them. Daniel, Diane, Renee, tied together by a stamp. I turned my wedding ring once. The light caught it. I exhaled, because that notary stamp told me something worse than the lie itself. The date Renee notarized it was a date her commission had already expired. An expired commission. I sat with that for a long time. A notary stamp is only valid while the commission is active. Renee had stamped that filing after hers ran out. I was nearly sure, but nearly sure doesn't win. Proof wins. So I went to confirm. The county keeps notary commission records. Public, searchable, free. I pulled Renee Caldwell's notary history the next morning. My coffee went cold. Her commission had expired on January 30th. That was the hard date. The co-ownership filing was notarized on February 18th, 19 days later. 19 days past her authority, Renee had stamped a legal document. That stamp was void, which made the filing itself vulnerable. Maybe worse. I turned my wedding ring around my finger. Once. Twice. I was close now. I'd built my whole understanding on that February filing. The co-ownership. If the notarization was invalid, the filing was questionable from its first breath, which meant Diane Foster's share stood on cracked ground, which meant the business Daniel hid from me might not be his to hide. I needed a professional to confirm the commission date, not to find it. I'd found it. I just needed it stamped by someone with letters after their name. I called an estate attorney named Howard. I'd worked with him before. I sent him the filing and the commission record. He called within the hour. Claire, this notarization is invalid. He said, the commission lapsed weeks earlier. I know, I said. I needed to hear you say it. This isn't just sloppy, he added. A void notary stamp can unwind the filing. Good, I said. That's exactly what I'm counting on. I drove home calm. The pieces were locking. The case was building itself. The sealed envelope rode in my bag the whole way. I kept it close now. I didn't open it, but I felt its weight every time I reached inside. It had become a kind of anchor, the one thing they couldn't see. That night, Daniel was on edge. He could feel something. Animals do. You've been quiet, he said over dinner. Distant. Is something wrong? Just tired, I said. I turned my ring. Tax season. You know how it is. You'd tell me if something was wrong. It wasn't a question. It was a test. Of course, I said, and smiled. When have I ever hidden anything? He laughed. I laughed. Two liars. One of us knew at it. Later, he took a call in the garage. I heard one word through the door. Diane. Soft. Careful. The voice you use for someone who matters. I didn't move. I just listened. I'm good at standing still. It's handled, he said. Claire doesn't suspect. She never does. She never does. He built 9 years on those 3 words. I went back to the desk and added the line to my file. With the timestamp, then I returned to the bank records, the canceled check images, page by page. I'd skim them once. Now I read every signature, front and back. That's when I found the check, made out to Diane Foster, $11,200, dated 9 years ago. I looked at the signature on the bottom line, and my breath stopped. It was my name, my signature, on a check I had never written. I held the image under the lamp. The loops were almost right. Almost, but not mine. Someone had practiced my hand. Someone had signed my name to move money to a woman I'd never met. The sealed envelope sat beside me, quiet, holding whatever it held. And the forged check wasn't even the worst part. It cleared the year before I knew Daniel's business existed at all. My signature on a check to a woman I'd never met. 9 years ago, I stared at that scanned image until the numbers blurred. Then I did what I always do. I stopped feeling and started checking. A signature can be copied, traced, lifted from one document onto another. I pulled my own records from that year. Every check I'd actually written. I lined them up beside the image. Same kitchen table. Steady hands. My real signature loops the sea. It always has. A habit, not a choice. The signature on that check didn't loop. It was close, but not mine. Someone had forged my name to move money to Diane Foster. Forged it the year before I even knew Daniel's business existed. I turned my wedding ring around my finger. The band felt heavier now. For a moment, I'll admit, fear touched me. My name on a fraud. What if I was tangled in this? What if I was liable? So I called Howard back. Late. He answered anyway. If the signature's forged, you're a victim, not a party, he said. You can prove your real signature. Forgery cuts the other way. It indicts them. I breathed out. The fear let go. I was legally clean. 9 years of being careful. It had built me a wall they couldn't cross. I gathered everything that week. Methodical, quiet, the way I do taxes, the backdated Sunday entry, the $41,000 in hidden income, the March 9th transfer, the second one, the day before our wedding, the co-ownership filing, the expired notary commission, Renee's void stamp, the forged check signed in my stolen hand, all of it in order, and the sealed envelope still unopened. Its turn would come. I arranged the case like a return, each page supporting the next, documented, traceable, balanced to the cent, a finished thing. While I built it, the pressure started. They could feel the floor shifting. Daniel grew sweet, suspiciously sweet. He brought home flowers twice. Let's finalize the taxes together this year, he said. Sign and be done. Sign quickly, he urged, before the deadline. Don't overthink it. Sign quickly. Don't overthink. I'd heard those words from fraudsters before. I'll think about it, I said. I wrote down the date and time. He didn't like that. His jaw tightened. He smiled through it. Then Renee called the house. She never called the house. Claire, dear, she purred. Daniel says the filing's nearly ready. Such a help. I do my best, I said. I'm being very thorough this year. A pause. A small, cold pause. Don't work too hard, she said. It wasn't concern. It was a warning. I filed it away too. The next day, a letter came from a lawyer. Their lawyer. A gentle threat dressed as paperwork. A reminder of marital confidentiality. They wanted me quiet. They were reaching for shame. The oldest tool. I didn't react. I added the letter to my file. Page 19. Ask yourself something. What happens when someone underestimates you completely? It becomes the one weapon they never think to take away. That's what their silence tools were. They thought fear would move me. But I don't move with noise. I move with truth. On my schedule, I made one more call. Not to a lawyer. To Diane Foster. I'd found her number in the public business registration. Legal. Open. She answered on the third ring. Her voice was older than I expected. Diane Foster? I said, my name is Claire. I'm Daniel's wife. The line went silent. A long, guilty silence. I waited. I think, I said gently, you and I were both used by the same people. She started to cry. And then Diane Foster began to talk. What she told me changed who the villain really was. Diane wasn't his partner by choice. She'd been forced, coerced. Years ago, the forgery, the hidden accounts, Renee had engineered all of it. Daniel was guilty, but Renee had built the machine, and Diane had proof. I turned my wedding ring once. The case wasn't closing. It was opening wider. Diane, I said softly, would you be willing to bring that proof to a room? Diane said yes. It took her a week to find the courage, but she said yes. I chose the room carefully. Daniel's firm. The conference room with the long table. The same room where Renee made her deals, where she felt powerful. I asked for a family meeting to finalize the taxes. Daniel agreed, pleased. He thought I was finally signing. He had no idea what I was bringing. I wore gray. I carried one folder and one sealed envelope. Nothing else. Renee was there in her expensive shoes. Daniel beside her, relaxed. A lawyer sat in the corner. Their lawyer, the one who sent the threat. I sat down across from them. The room smelled of fresh coffee and polish. I set the folder on the table. The sealed envelope I kept in my hand. I turned my wedding ring once. Then I began, quietly, before we sign anything. I said, I want to be sure the numbers are honest. Daniel smiled. They are, Claire. You did them yourself. I did the ones you showed me. I said, let's look at the others. I opened the folder. I laid the pages out, one by one. No drama. The backdated Sunday entry. A corporation doesn't wire money on a Sunday. I said, the $41,000 in hidden income. This never reached our return. Renee shifted. Daniel's smile thinned. I kept going, page by page. The co-ownership filing. Diane Foster, 38%. 11 days before our wedding. Claire, Daniel started. I raised one finger. He stopped. Then I laid down the notary record. Renee, your commission expired January 30th. The room went still. Renee's face didn't move, but her hand did. You notarized this filing February 18th, 19 days after your authority ended. The lawyer in the corner sat forward. This was new to him. That stamp is void, I said, which means this filing can be unwound. Then I placed the forged check image down. And this, my signature. I never signed it. This is absurd, Renee said. Her voice was ice. You're a bookkeeper. You're confused. I'm a tax preparer. I said, I'm never confused about dates. Now I set the sealed envelope on the table. Cream-colored, soft corners. Daniel stared at it. He knew that envelope. The color drained from his face. I found this under your tax folders. I said, months ago. I never opened it. I didn't have to. You hiding it told me enough. An unopened original, I said quietly, is worth more than any copy. Then, for the first time, I broke the seal. In front of all of them, I unfolded the single sheet inside. A woman's careful hand. Diane's hand. I read the 2 lines aloud. If she ever finds the February filing, deny everything. Burn this. The room held its breath. Daniel had kept the thing that could bury him. For 9 years, they thought I was furniture, the saint who refilled the wine. It wasn't a tax meeting. It was a reckoning, and I documented every page. Then the door opened. Diane Foster walked in. Daniel went white. "Hello, Daniel," she said quietly. "I brought everything. All of it." Diane set her own folder down. Years of coercion. Documented. Dated. The machine Renee built, exposed in Diane's careful records. Renee stood up fast. "This meeting is over." "Sit down," the lawyer said. To her, not to me. "Renee, sit down." That was the moment it turned. Her own lawyer had read the dates. Renee sat. The polished mask cracked. Underneath was only calculation. I looked at Daniel. I didn't raise my voice once in 9 years. I said, "I just kept the records." Turns out that was enough. What followed was not loud. It rarely is when the truth is this complete. Renee's firm faced a fraud review. Her notary record alone ended her career. Daniel settled in court. The hidden income, the forgery, the void filing, all surfaced. He paid back the $41,000. He lost the business that was never honestly his. Diane, freed at last, testified clean. The coercion on record protected her. The lawyer who sent me threats withdrew the day he saw the dates. I walked out of that building alone. The afternoon was cold and bright. I stood on the steps. The winter air bit my face. Somewhere, a bell rang. I took one full breath, the first in years. Just air, just mine. I drove home. I made tea. I sat with the envelope finally empty of secrets. Months later, I used what I recovered to do something quiet. I started a small service, free tax help for women leaving dishonest marriages. I teach them to read their own numbers, to never sign blind, because no one should be made furniture in their own home. I kept the weathered envelope. It sits in my drawer where I can see it. It reminds me that the smallest paper can hold the largest truth. I spent my whole life keeping other people's records, quietly, and I learned one thing. The truth doesn't need a raised voice. It just needs to be written down, dated, and kept. If you've been carrying something heavy and quietly, put it down the right way, not with noise, with truth. I turned my wedding ring one last time. Then I took it off and set it beside the envelope, both finally at rest. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments. Would you have stayed quiet and gathered the truth, or confronted him that first night? If you believe quiet people deserve justice too, give this video a like and share it with someone who needs it tonight. Subscribe to Betrayal Diaries for a new story of betrayal and quiet justice every day. And tap the screen now to watch another one right here. I'll see you in the next story.